Okay, assalamu alaikum again, everyone. Welcome to our 34th week studying the 29th word on angels, immortality of spirit, and the resurrection. So we're coming up on almost a year, or we're past it, I think, actually. So inshallah, our prayer is that this deep dive into the text has made angels and angelic living a bit more present in our lives during this year and our study of the subject. We are in the second aim. So the second aim, for anyone who's new or who hasn't had time to catch up, is more about resurrection, the necessity of resurrection and proofs for resurrection. So we've been going over different discussions for if resurrection is possible, if it is possible, what a kind of power can actually make it happen. Why is it necessary that the world be destroyed and then brought back to life? So these are all questions that we're trying to answer and reflect on and connect with our study of the first aim, which was about angels and the immortality of spirit. So one thing that I want to do is, just remind us to set intention for the halqa, inshallah, that we're trying to get in touch with and witness the angelic side of creation, the malakut side of creation, and not be stuck in the shell and the mulk side. So that's how we should approach the text, how we should question the text, inshallah. And as always, while we're reading and discussing, feel free to raise your hand or write in the chat with any questions that you may have. Last week, we read A Subtle Elusive Matter, which kind of went over the law of perfection and the natural lifespans of things. And we reflected on some of the wording here. For example, the more substantial form grows, the weaker reality becomes. The less substantial form becomes, to that degree, the reality grows stronger. So one thing that we've been emphasizing week after week is, what do we consider to be the reality of the world? Is it the matter that we're interacting with, or is it the meaning behind physical substance? And what those meanings represent, the beautiful names, the messages from our Creator. So, inshallah, as we keep studying, we can orient ourselves to see what's more important, what's more substantial. I will stop there and I will see if anyone has any reflections from the past week's reading. And then we can start reading the second matter, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Alhamdulillah, so happy to have new friends joining us. I see a lot of new friends. Assalamu alaikum to all. So I think the most beautiful thing that we talked about last week was the take-home point that I mentioned was, in every single moment, this is the shortcut formula, in every single moment, it is either black or white. Either your ruh is feeding on, which was the words that Dr. Yamina used, feeding on meaning and then growing, if we're consuming meaning, yani the malakut are delivering us the most beautiful names of God. The angels are delivering the most beautiful qualities of God. Everything is miraculous. And during this, I can't believe it's been a year, Nurbana. That felt like it was way too long. I mean, I felt like it was much shorter than that, but I believe you. In this amount of time, we've been studying how to transform our perception from seeing blueberries, water, soap, whatever is in your mundane, quote unquote, perceptually, the false perception of mundane, and seeing it as a miracle. And that requires slowing down. Slowing down is not easy, especially if you're on this East Coast. And so scheduling pauses regularly to bring ourselves to slow down and look at our hands. They're perfectly designed tools, doing everything that we ask them to do, with these little projections on each finger that move whenever we want them to. And the water is held in such a way that it's perfect to my needs. And different color berries and foods are at my disposal through infinite power. So we discussed all of these different things in different segments of our study. And so go back to the easy formula. In every single moment, the ruh is either feeding on meaning, that means seeing miracles, and in awe. If we are seeing, feeling awe, then we are co-glorifying with the malaika, with the angels. We are together witnessing the perfection of the one who made us, and witnessing how much support the fact that my hand moves so easily, with what support, like what is doing this for me? Angels. We discussed angels in many ways. I highly recommend all of our new friends to go back to the angel parts of this series on our Receiving Noor YouTube channel. And if the ruh is receiving meaning, which takes all of this work, right? It takes pausing and reflecting and watching consciously what's happening. There's nothing boring about the dishes. I have to say this to myself out loud. It's a miracle. And so Dr. Yamina reminded us to put up Post-its. My Post-it for last week was this formula that I can't get to finish the sentence yet. The ruh is either feeding on meaning, and therefore it grows, and the world becomes more transparent. That was the language that Imam Nursi used. Luminous. Then we start to see things, inshallah, with a more miraculous touch. Or if you're like me, the majority of the time, when your ruh is not doing that, when you're not consciously pausing and reflecting and thinking about how things are magical and miraculous, then we are stuck in the dense, coarse, physical plane of the world. And there's no growing, there's no meaning, there's no trend, there's nothing. So that for me was very wow, super easy formula, perfect. Put it by the dishes, put it by the refrigerator, put it as a message everywhere, because either I'm just going to take a shower because I have to run out the door because I have to go do something, or I am going to pause and witness the miracle of all of the things, the way I feel, how is this so perfect? And It's something that is a tarbiyah. We have to train ourselves to do this because however many decades you've been alive is how many years that we've not trained to do this, which makes it more pressing because Dr. Yamina said in the past week, prior to last week, so 2 weeks ago, this is our actual career, to be conscious of the miracles happening here as the only way to be conscious of God. You cannot be conscious of God unless you're conscious of the angels that are doing the magic of God's miracles here. God's miracles are taking place on earth only through angelic beings. And these are who we're interacting with constantly in everything, in the water, in the sun, in everything. And that was in our angel series. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nurbanu and Dr. Yamina, but that would be my kind of brief overall summary. So if this is our profession, it's the only reason we've been given existence. And for as many decades as we've been alive, nobody has taught us how to do this transformative work. It wasn't taught in school. It wasn't taught in your graduate, undergraduate education, or in the masajid. As far as I'm concerned, traditional Islamic education also did not educate me on how to see the signs, the ayats, which Dr. Yamina emphasizes all the time in all of our conversations, in all of our retreats. We cannot be conscious of God unless we are seeing things as miraculous. And miraculous is kind of a new word. We try to change it up so that we're not using the same language and thinking that we know what we're talking about, but seeing things as truly something miraculous to ponder about with curiosity and wonder. And either the world is becoming more and more transparent and luminescent because we have receiving nur, Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina, for being with us and being patient with us as we come together weekly with her time and her studies and her experience with helping us receive the guidance from Imam Nursi, who did all of this work and then put this text into words to share his experience. And so last week, we also talked about what stops us from doing this is that everybody kind of claims a false identity. We think that we're our bodies. We think Dr. Yamina said something last week that stuck with me. We pathetically identify as our careers, as our physical jobs. Oh, my name is X, and who are you? Oh, I work as an X, and this is how. Forget about how you introduce yourself. This is how who you believe you are, which is very much so on the physical plane of existence, which is devoid of your awareness or my awareness as to our real career and the reason why we're here. And so she said, that's what you do, not who you are. And that to me was absolutely profound, especially in certain cultures. We think that we are esteemed when we have certain accolades or when you studied for a certain amount of time, when in reality, all of that time, whatever it is that you studied, if it wasn't connected to the horizontal, it has no carryover in the eternal world. So Bismillah. Welcome again to all of our new friends. I'm super excited to have so many friends. It looks like this time works out best. May we receive the enlightenment of his guidance and his light. And may we all make dua for our teacher, Dr. Yamina, who again is very patient with meeting with us regularly so that we can do the work. Do the work every week, remind each other. It's not easy, and we need the momentum of these conversations weekly to encourage one another to come back and really make this a living community who is striving to be people who see his signs and who are truly in awe and are not just quote unquote religious, reading the scripture and doing the rituals, devoid of the awe inside that makes the hearts, inshallah, tremble and feel true joy. And we talked about that, Sa'ada Abadiyya. Everlasting happiness can only be here. So Bismillah, I think that's a good summary of all of our last sessions, inshallah. And I'm going to pause if anybody would have anything to say, or Dr. Yamina or Rabanu. Otherwise, inshallah, we can jump right to it.
Jazakallah, Sarah. I always love your reflections, and a good reminder that when we started the series, one thing we talked about was how, the first aim is about angels, and belief in angels is one of the principles of faith, right? And so is belief in the hereafter. So something that we keep coming back to is this isn't something that we should have just as information. Yeah, I believe in angels. Yeah, I believe in the hereafter. Why? How do you know that angels exist? What are they? What does believing in angels mean? What does believing in the hereafter mean? So this is what we want to answer for ourselves, because if these beliefs have no impact on my life every day, why believe them? Or why is it required of me to believe in these things? So we don't want it to be belief that's empty, but something that we have with certainty. That's not just knowledge, but something that really satisfies our hearts, inshallah. Okay, so second matter. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. So we had some questions in the beginning of the section about the death of the world. And in the first matter, the question that we answered was, is the death of the world possible? So our study of the first matter was about, yes, it is possible, because, everything else we see, we observe, that we witness, has this process of perfection, and anything that has this process of perfection, growth, improvement, also has a natural lifespan. So just like a tree or a fruit has this stages of growth, the same thing can be said of the entire universe. As such, its death should also be possible, among other reasons. So the second matter, this is the actual death of the world. The proof of this matter is the consensus of all the revealed religions, the testimony of all sound natures, the indication of all the changes, transformations, and alterations in the universe, the testimony to the number of centuries and years through their deaths in this guest house of the world, of all living worlds and mobile worlds to the death of the world itself. If you want to imagine the death agonies of the world, as the Quran points them out, think of how the parts of the universe are bound to one another with one exact exalted order. With an exact exalted order. They are held with such a hidden, delicate, subtle bond, and are so bound within an order, that on a single one of the lofty heavenly bodies receiving the command be, or leave your orbit, the world will go into its death agonies. The stars will collide, the heavenly bodies reel, a great din will strike up in infinite space like the devastating sound of millions of cannonballs, and great guns the size of globes, clashing and colliding with one another, sending out showers of sparks, the mountains taking flight, the seas burning, the face of the earth will be flattened. If you guys remember, we looked at these verses from the Quran in the first matter. When the sun is rolled up, when the stars tumble, when the mountains are swept away, when the she-camels 10 months with young are left untended, when the wild beasts are herded together, when the oceans boil over. So we should keep that in the back of our mind. Thus, through this death and those agonies, the pre-eternal one of power will shake up the universe. He will purify the universe, and hell and the matters of hell will draw to one side, and paradise and the matters appropriate for paradise draw to the other, and the world of the hereafter will become manifest. My initial reflection on this matter is, something that this imagery that we've had in our study is the idea of the universe, being created every moment and just being hung up on this line that we call time. So when we kind of perceive our reality this way, and during the retreats and our previous halakas, one thing that we always talk about is the idea that what we have is only this moment. This morning is gone, the past years are gone. We don't know what the future holds. So every moment we're actually experiencing and witnessing this tiny death. So here, what I understood is that the actual death of the world, if you guys remember, there was a imagined conversation in the beginning of the section that was about whether resurrection and the destruction of the world would be possible. And the question was, something so big and wonderful like our world or like our universe, could it actually be destroyed? Could something actually happen to it? Because it just seems so big and stable in its own way. But here my attention is brought to these two things. One, the testimony to the number of centuries and years through their deaths in this guest house of the world. Every year, century, millennia that has passed is already a dead version of this world, of this universe. And the other thing he highlighted here is how parts of the universe are bound to one another with an exact, exalted order, and they're in such a delicate, subtle balance that if one of the lofty heavenly bodies received the command be, or leave your orbit, the world will go into its death agonies. And this is also something that we've talked about previously when we were talking about the comparison of obedience, and generally when we are reflecting on the order in the universe, how there's such a delicate balance. So if we were a couple kilometers closer to the sun or further from the sun, or from any of the other planets, just on a physical scale, that would be our doom. And that's something that's in this order that's been set up. Um, okay, and then the third thing, if you guys remember, we also talked about this, the purification of the universe, and hell and the matters of hell, and paradise and the matters of paradise separating. So, we know, or we observe, that in this world, in the mulk, or the world of mulk, I guess, things are mixed or mixed up together, where we have these comparisons, right? We talked about good and evil, hot and cold, stuff like this, where things appear together, or they're mixed, or they're amalgamated in some way. But in this destruction, or in the hereafter, it seems like it'll be a time where everything will separate and things will be where they belong. So this purification is something that, for me, I feel like I need to reflect more on, about like what that signifies for me. But those are my initial reflections. What do you guys think?
Thank you, Nurbanu. Yeah, I love what you shared, and I just want to, there's a feeling of relief that comes over me now today with everything that's been going on. I- because we all learn in Sunday school at some point, or some sort of religious text, or your parents raise you to tell you, yeah, everything's going to die. It's one thing to know that, and it's one thing, what we're learning is how to make shahada, like Dr. Yamina constantly emphasizes. That means not just know it, somebody told you it, so you know it to be true, but you can confirm the truth of it. Tasdiq, saddaqa. By seeing shahada, you see everything dying. We're seeing everything turn to rubble, whether it's your life and whatever happened yesterday and in the past is gone, like Dr. Yamina constantly emphasizes, and Nurbanu, mashallah, also just emphasized, everything that is before right now is gone. We're watching an entire community and several nations just turning to rubble. So for me, to the actual death of the whole world sounds like such a relief. Because something inside, like we've been talking about with the sisters here, cringes and is in such, we're so disturbed because inside this immortal speaking, feeling ruh, this spirit is constantly like, I don't like this because I love eternity. I love eternal safety. I love eternal beauty. I love eternal protection and justice and eternal, all of the beautiful names. And so as we're witnessing the total opposite of that, of course, we are going to feel that internal alarm buzzing and radiating. And at the same time, Alhamdulillah, Dr. Yamin always says, Alhamdulillah, that this world is temporary. It's such a relief that everything is going to turn into rubble. So it's like, take a deep breath. It's not just that's turning into rubble. It's not just them and they're everything. كل من عليها فان. Alhamdulillah. Everything here is turning to rubble. It's like turning to dust as we speak. Every moment as you're saying the words, they're done. And that moment is done. So there's such a relief about that, because that inside, that alarm is like going off. It's like, yes, yes, yes. We need paradise and we don't like transience. Yes, yes, yes. And then the next page, Norbanu, I love the last paragraph about, and this is also very true right now. I thought it was a beautiful metaphor, and there's so many sisters that I tell to come to this halaqah because they would benefit from hearing this, because of what they're struggling with right now with our current state of Philistine. But this purification that's happening, I love that word, because it's clearly we see agony and suffering and destruction, and it is. And at the same time, there is such deep, profound purification happening from an infinite intelligence and infinite wisdom. And we're human, we're made, we have, may he give us from that knowledge and wisdom. We don't have, I speak for myself, not even a droplet of that to understand the depth of this last paragraph. But just reading it gives me itmitnan. I feel a huge wave of relief, because what's becoming very, very clear through this and through all calamities that happen in your personal life or on a global scale is that heaven and hell, what's right and what's clearly dark, what's light and what's clearly dark, becomes so crystal clear through this. And your need for them becomes so activated and triggered. I have so many friends now saying, I'm ready for the death of this world. All that matters is paradise. Yani, I hope this hell and that everyone, there is such a intense, I don't even, the highest level of the word. There's such an immense need that has been awakened up in the souls now. And I think that is the purification process. And only he knows the wisdom for the extent of the destruction that has brought us to this point. But for sure, I know I cannot deny that shaking up the universe has led to an intense purification of people's awareness and awakening to transience, heaven and hell. And that's all. I'll pause there. And Dr. Yamina, if you would like to, inshallah, share.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Inshallah, everyone is well, bi'idhnillah. Thank you, Nurbanu. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. I don't even know where to start, not only because it's very profound and loaded, but because everything in this first and second matter, in this fourth fundamental point, is related to everything from the beginning. It's all woven one into the other, and he's building. So he started with the points we needed to be clear about so that we can deal with this fourth point. For instance, in this second matter, when he's talking about the actual death of the world, and he talks about the order. Well, before that, let me, when he says that the proof that the world, of the death of the world, so he talks about the consensus of all revealed religions, the testimony of all sound nature, the indication of all changes, transformations, alterations in the universe, and the deaths of everything, all being, all living worlds. In other places, the author, Imam Badi'uz Zaman Said al-Nursi rahimahullah, he gives the metaphor of a clock and the hands of the clock. So if the hand of the second is moving, we don't have to wait for an hour and see that the bigger hand has moved to know that the clock is working. Because if the seconds are passing, it means minutes and hours are also passing. So the fact that everything is passing and flowing into another world, this process of death means that everything has death, just like the stars and the sun and everything else. And maybe you can ask, why does he even point to this? I mean, isn't it clear that everything dies? So one is, yes, everything dies, but the whole is also, there is the death of the whole thing, as Nurbanu said, because it seems stable. On one hand, this is my feeling. One is because we take it for stable. And the second one, why do we choose to perceive the world as stable, although we know, at least intellectually, or we heard, or we don't deny that everything is passing and changing. And if you have children, you see them growing and changing. And if you look at yourself in the mirror after 10 years, you see someone who is slightly different, and everything is changing around us, the season and everything. Why don't we focus on that? It seems to be related to death alarms us. And it alarms us because we do not pause and try to learn, what does it mean? What is death? What does it mean that everything is dying? And because we don't ask those questions, we don't feel the need to listen to the Quran as answering our questions, as a source of guidance here and now. So our relationship with the speech of God is not a living relationship, because we don't feel the need, because we run away from the reality and we want to imagine that everything is fine and stable, and as though death is very selective and very local, and it's not a universal reality. And so in the second one, he talks about the order in the universe. And this here, it's only a few sentences, because as Nurbanu mentioned, in the previous fundamental point, it was all about how everything is obedient to the divine command, which we see as laws, how there is an order, how everything is made to receive that. And there were lots of metaphors given to us to understand what's going on. And the command of be and it is, when it comes, everything at once receives the command. So just for those who are not here, it has already been discussed. And this is related to the Malakut side of things, because remember, the Malakut, the aspect of the world of existence, of the creation that looks to God, is the aspect that looks to meaning. Eventually, meaning looks to the meaning of the beautiful names of God, the perfections in this universe. And so it's Malakut, it looks to the angelic part, and the angels are the carriers of the divine command that manifests in the world in forms that we perceive. So it is related to the divine command. If there is a divine command, the divine command comes into this world through the angels. That's why belief in the angels is part of believing in God. And it's one of the pillars of Iman. And here, belief is not, I don't deny, therefore I believe. That's not belief, that's claim. Belief means I know, I am certain at a level or another, I have witnessed it, I have experienced it, I have some experience about it. It's not that I just don't deny it or heard about it. It's more than that. So that was just a clarification. So this order, because when there is a B, they are all interconnected. Everything receives the command, just as they receive the command of B as they are now. Follow your orbit, for instance. If it says leave your orbits, then everything will fall apart. And there were passages from the Quran related to this, and also there are passages in the Quran about if you remember in Surah Al-Fatir, Surah 35, Ayah 40 and 41, it says, consider those partners, those here, shuraka'akum, the things that you make shirk with, which for us is potentially everything. Whenever we look at something and we don't see فَثَمَّ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ, we don't see the countenance of God, we don't see the beautiful names, we don't see some divine activity going on, then that's what Sarah was saying, it's either light or dark. When I don't see that, by default, I am imagining without being aware, but belief and Iman matters, need conscious, they are being conscious and aware. And when we are unaware, then by default, we found ourselves in that darkness of shirk. So here the ayah 3540 says, say, consider those partners of yours, it's speaking to us, to everyone, that you call upon besides God. Show me, what part of the earth did they create? What share of the heavens do they possess? Have we given them a book that contains clear evidence? No, indeed, the wrongdoers, al-dhalimun, promise each other only delusion. That's a delusion. And it seems like I'm getting something from that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's just like light is not coming from the bulb. It's not coming from the wire. So is the fruit not coming from the tree. The tree is not making it. It's coming through it, but the tree is not making it. That's all the illusion and delusion of unawareness, of ghafla, and so it's something that we are told again in the Quran, when we are not living in the presence of the divine and enjoying and being at awe of all the light and the beauty and the perfection of the beautiful names of God, then the alternative is not, we're just neutral. No, we're missing all that. It means we are in darkness. We see beauty as coming from the flower itself. And that beauty doesn't last. It is transient. It dies. And we talked about it in the last week. It was the subtle, elusive matter. So here back to the ayah. So that's the delusion of being stuck in the veils of causality, of cause and effect, and not seeing that the cause effect are the ayah. They are indicating, speaking about the maker, the Rabb, our Rabb. They are making him known. They are making shahada, teaching us how to make shahada. They are glorifying God. They are making tasbih. They are refuting shirk. That's what tasbih means, really. And the next ayah, 35:41, says, "It is God who keeps the heavens and earth from vanishing. If they did vanish, no one else could stop them. God is most forbearing, most forgiving. Inna Allah yumsiku as-samawati wal-ard an tazula ولئن زالتا إن أمسكهما من أحد من بعده إنه كان حليما غفورا." And Haliman here, most forbearing, but it's also translated as subtle, most subtle, and Ghafoor, for most forgiving. Alhamdulillah that Allah is most forgiving, because otherwise Allah, as if He does not count our negative points, only our positives. And if we make istighfar, then inshallah, it's even better. And there are other passages in the Quran that says that it is God who keeps everything in place. And if He does not, like if there would not exist anything, we cannot imagine anything without it. This Iman and this perception of the world is what is related to the Malakut, seeing the Malakut within the Mulk. And it starts with seeing the meaning of things, that things are meaningfully connected to each other. They are meaningfully, there is a meaningful order. Everything is pointing to something beyond, something more than what we are seeing. That's how it starts. And that's why, although he's talking about death here, in this, not only in this second matter, but in the first matter as well, the death of the world, he's saying, the death of matter, the death of form. But he emphasized that death itself is an ayah, it's an indication that conveys meaning. So death also has a malakut side to it. There is an angel of death. What does it mean? Death is meaningful. It conveys meaning to us. There is beauty in it. There is wisdom in it. There is power in it. So that's why the world, matter, form dies, but reality does not. Meaning does not. So in last week's reading, A Subtle Elusive Matter, he says, no matter how weak reality is, it does not die. It is not annihilated like a form. Rather, it travels in individuals and forms. Reality grows, develops, gradually expands, while the shell, the form, like the matter sides, wear out, become finer, breaks up, dies, goes away. So he's saying reality and form are in inverse proportion. And the more substantial form grows, the weaker reality, and vice versa. So the more we identify with matter and form and physicality, the less we become aware of reality, and the less we identify with the ruh, with the spirit, and vice versa. It doesn't mean one doesn't exist. Whether I'm aware of it or not makes no difference. But the proportion is, if I identify with matter, with the body, for instance, the body keeps changing, and the body is a tiny part of who I am. So I'm missing on the largest part of who I am. But if I or when I start identifying with the ruh, and I become more and more conscious, because the ruh is the conscious part of us, then it doesn't mean that I have no body. But the body has, I am more, my connection and relationship with the body changes. The body now becomes more meaningful. I am more in touch with the Malakut side of the body. The body also has those two aspects. And now it becomes a conscious, well, yeah. The Malakut side is the conscious part, the meaning side, the reality side or aspect of it. So it's still there, but how I perceive it changes. So here, why is this important? Because yes, the world dies, but reality does not, meaning does not. The body dies, ruh does not. The world dies, the mulk dies, the malakut does not. And this is something that we observe and we witness when we start living from the ruh, which means it starts actually, the ruh starts being activated without us being really aware of it. When we focus more and more on the malakut, then our consciousness and awareness is upgraded, then we become self-aware, and then the process is, how do you say? It speeds up, it gains momentum. So now there is balance. When there is balance between the mulk and the malakut, the mulk is a tiny part of, it's like a word, that a text that's talking about things that are, for instance, describing a house or leading you into the house. The house and the words are not the same thing. They are related, but they are not the same thing. So the mulk is talking about alam al-ghaib, is talking, it's showing and opening the door, opening the window onto the world of the unseen, the world of the beautiful names that we have access to here and now. So they are incomparable. They are both, the malakut is necessary, but if we get stuck there, we miss the purpose of the existence of the mulk in our existence. Everything is there to guide us to fulfill that purpose, for the ruh to fulfill and grow and develop to what it is supposed to be. So now there is, once the balance is there, death is not something dreadful anymore. We don't dread it, because death is part of the process. Death is just as beautiful as life. And they come together. Yuhyi wa yumit. He gives death, he gives life and death. And it's through death that something new can come. I think I'll stop here. There are too many things, and I just wanted to connect things. So we understand that we are talking about the death of the world, but reality doesn't die, Malakut doesn't die. And when we achieve that balance, when we reach some sort of balance, because it's not one balance, it depends on which level we are at, then we start appreciating things for the meaning they carry, for the reality they reflect, rather than for themselves. We talked about it last week. When we are unaware of Malakut, then or our love for the beautiful names become a love for the world, for itself, for the worldly. And not only because it rises shirk, but because shirk, that horizontal, getting stuck in the horizontal, takes to darkness, because there is no future, no lastingness, no true purpose, no true meaning. And that is painful, and that is leads to hopelessness, because we are created with the need of lasting, for meaning and purpose and joy, but they have to be lasting. But in the horizontal, in the worldly, there is no lastingness. So when we start becoming aware of the Malakut, the same love, the same needs, the same appreciation becomes something that is nourishing to the ruh, and it becomes something that takes us to the true source, to our Rabb, to our sustainer, to God. And that appreciation in itself will increase our gratitude, will increase our appreciation of God. Itself becomes ibadah, becomes worship, because as we are appreciating the maker. So it is worship of God instead of worship of things, which has really disastrous consequences. So one leads to nowhere, and the other one leads to here and now, tasting the fruits of worshiping God, of knowing God with his beautiful names, of connecting with the world through the Malakut side, through the angels, worshiping God, glorifying him together with the angels. Actually, they teach us how to testify, because they are testifying, we testify their testimony. That's how we know, through them, because we watch them. And we start glorifying God together with them. And that's our worship. And so our life in this world becomes totally different. And so when we talk about the death and the death of the world, we are not now scared. If we don't have any awareness of the Malakut, we don't want to talk about death, and we don't want to confirm the death of the world, because death of the world means one day it will be my death, and I don't see what's meaningful or beautiful or liberating or enlightening about it. I'm not aware of that. So I can only be scared. And it seems like, why do we even need to confirm the death of the world and for the resurrection? Yeah, because the death of the world is the death of the body of the human being, the body of everything else. But the ruh doesn't die, reality doesn't die. That's important. And that's directly related to our witnessing of the reality of resurrection. There is the 10th word is a long treatise on the resurrection. And if you look at the Quran talks a lot about the resurrection and about akhirah, the hereafter, and about having certainty in akhirah. It seems like, how can I have certainty in akhirah? I haven't been there. Like, it seems like I have to die and then go and check akhirah. No, but everything is dying here and now. I am dying here and now. It means I am going through many deaths and many resurrections here and now. And I'm given the opportunity again and again to confirm the reality of this. Why? Because the reality of the resurrection is related to my well-being here and now and for eternity. Isn't that very important? Everyone is working, doing something to feel good, to be happy, to be fulfilled. And Allah is saying, look, there is only one way to be fulfilled here, now, forever. Come, I'll show you the way. And I say, no, I don't have time. You know, maybe from time to time I may come, but even then I'm not totally present with the teachings of the Quran because I think I'm busy with something else. I have lots of things to do in order to gain fulfillment, this, that, everything that God is already, how do you say, promising us. So at least let's give the Quran or give ourselves actually, because the Quran doesn't need it, as Allah says, Allah doesn't need you. Give ourselves an opportunity to try it for 6 months, try it for a year, make it our main goal, and everything else will fall anyway. We'll be doing something anyways. You carry on your life, but it's our attitude that matters. We need to make that decision, that choice, and renew the decision. The decision that this is the most important thing. I will, however that works. Like Sarah was sharing some bullets, some points. In practice, what does it mean? What do I do in my daily life? And we can even have like people who decide to, I want to live with this awareness. What shall I do in my daily life? That's actually what we do in the retreats as well. So we can start with 2-3 points, 1 point even for a month. Just add a second one. Once it becomes a habit, you add a second one, a third one. And after a year, you see it didn't change anything in your life, then go and live whatever you want. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're all living somehow. But to me, I think it's extremely important. And Allah, our creator, our maker, is asking us again and again, pay attention, pay attention. You need it, you need it. Why is he telling us this? Out of love, out of mercy, out of compassion. And we are like very stubborn, naughty children. But like, we're not children anymore. So, Bismillah.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina. Alhamdulillah, that was loaded with gems. I want to do what I'm feeling inspired to do and just emphasize again, the repetition is what we need, some takeaways. Alhamdulillah, first of all, Jazakallah kulla khair. I'm so grateful. Wallahi, my ruh feels so good to hear all of this. It's such a blessing. So from the beginning, I love that we brought our attention to that part of the text with, I have it on my screen, the celestial heavenly bodies, that part, Nurbanu, in the beginning, yeah. Because it's so subtle, but it was such a good point, and it struck me. So if we think that the world, and so the ayat that you shared were beautiful. Again, they were in Surah Fatir 40 and 41. And I was also reminded of Surah Mulk. It came to me as you were sharing reflections on this, Dr. Yamina. مَا يُمْسِكُهُنَّ إِلَّا الرَّحْمَنُ. Like, you think that the skies are just up there? Do you think that the clouds are just floating? And in like, yeah, what do you mean? Like, I was outside today and it didn't even strike me. I didn't even think about it. Like, yes, yeah, the clouds are just moving. Completely ghafil, yani, no awareness at all that there are lofty heavenly bodies, beings moving the clouds, holding the heavens, holding the celestial bodies. If we think that it's just stable, like Nurbanu, and then Nurbanu said, and then again, Dr. Yamini repeated, it completely wipes out any space for consciousness. So for me, that's going to be a point to sit there and think about. Inshallah, maybe I'll put post-its by my window or figure out a way to put the post-its. Because I don't ponder that the sky is being held up for me, and the Quran does. It asks us, like, how is it that everybody loves stargazing? Oh yeah, the stars are so beautiful. It's totally worshiping the stars. Who's holding them up? Who is moving them? This is incredible, because if we can shift that there must be this, that's not just holding itself, it's not just, there's something, then it becomes super simple formula. Whoever's holding it is because there's a command, hold it. As soon as that command says let go, khalas, this earth is a wrap, as we say. It's done. Which makes it so much more easy than like, oh no, how, like, when is it gonna happen? People are saying now, like, when is the earth gonna end? I don't know. Like, focusing sort of on the history and the timing of the events and what's coming next. But truly, the only thing to focus on is it's a command now, and it's a command when it happens. Prostrate. Just prostrate, because nothing is happening without the command. And Dr. Yamina is saying, no command of God is manifesting here without heavenly celestial beings that are executing that command. In every moment, the molecule of water is held by that command. The stars are held with that command. My kidneys are floating in the space of my body through that command. My stomach, my organs, my eyes are floating in their little ocean through that command. That's incredible breakthrough that happened to me. I was like, whoa. And so subhanallah, that alone is enough to make you pause, whatever it is. Dr. Yamina says, pick one thing to reflect on it. So you taste awe until it becomes a habit, then add one more thing. That to me seemed very reasonable. And so imagine if we're not just seeing, okay, it's a sunny day. Like I had a little human being ask me, oh no, the sun went away because the cloud covered the sun. I said, no, the sun is still there. It's just a cloud and my response was totally devoid of anything miraculous. Just the cloud is just covering the sun. The sun doesn't go away. It's still there. But if I would have just looked at that same sky that he was asking me about, like, oh my God, what just happened to the sun? Somehow, this thing that we call a cloud, was moved in a new position by some being carrying the command of infinite power. That's a game changer for me. I feel like that could have transformed our whole moment. Like we would have just prostrated together. So I love this little pause because yani, I know that what just came to me is like the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were seeing revelation in their worlds in such a different way. May Allah inspire us. That one, I believe there's a tradition, one of the hadith that says that one of the companions, even if the veil was to be lifted and they can see angelic beings actually holding the things up, or see, if the veil was lifted and it wouldn't change their iman, nothing, because they already see it. How else is it happening? How else? There's no other way. You see how they were thinking versus like the way the science books taught us. Yes, it's the clouds, they're raining, the cloud is just moving because of the wind. What are we talking about? What do you mean the wind? What do you mean the clouds? What do you mean? Heavenly bodies, beings. And then Dr. Yamini said something else that really, really struck me about my own body. So when I start to see, like one of our weeks was infinite power, nothing is happening without infinite power. The water, infinite power. The banana right there, now all of a sudden it has brown dots. Yesterday it had 0 brown dots. Infinite power. Something is moving and acting on the banana. Something is moving and acting on the plant. Something is moving. The sun looks completely different. Infinite power, infinite power. Imagine if in every moment your eyes are just seeing infinite power. This was a couple of weeks ago, one of our homeworks that we ended with, Heartworks. So the ruh starts to feed on that and be like, wow, wow. And it starts to eat on that. Okay. And then, so that's step one, is Dr. Yamina was sharing. Step one is like letting the ruh taste moments of really seeing, let's say, infinite power. This must be infinite love. And things are constantly changing. So infinite power was an easy one to focus on because nothing can change without power. And because everything is connected, it's infinite power. Like that, the sky is related to the atmosphere, is related to the gravity, is related to the this, to that. And there's nothing that could happen without infinite power. So Dr. Mina was saying, when I start identifying with the ruh and become more and more conscious, so I'm eating the meaning, I'm like reflecting on the meaning, then my connection and relationship with my body changes. And this was subtle too. So then I'm more in touch with the malakut side of the body, because the body itself has 2 aspects. And I know Amina Stevens is here and she's going to love this because we talk about this in her Friday sessions, if anybody's interested. The body also has 2 aspects, physical matter and heavenly celestial beings. And nothing manifests in the body without the divine command of the heavenly beings. So inside of me, so then, yeah, I'm seeing the infinite power. Okay, the banana. Okay, the cloud. Okay, the water. Okay, these little beings around me are moving. Infinite power, infinite power. Like all of this is happening now in my own body. Instead of just feeding my body breakfast, giving my body water, seeing what my body feels. Oh, there's a headache. Take a Motrin, do a stretch. That's all physical. Then this gives us a little bit of space to become aware that the body is only acting by the command, through the command of the execution of the command by these celestial beings. So who am I really interacting with in my body? That was amazing for me. That was amazing for me. And I mean, just because Amina Stevens is here, Fridays, inshallah, she intends to bring us to Qigong, which is a practice that focuses on this different elements, this different aspect, the light and life force in the body, inshallah, this Friday. If anybody wants to join, message me, inshallah. And so, yes, I want us to feel excited, because the ruh gets too suffocated to just eat and drink on the physical plane without realizing. It's one thing to know it in your mind, but to make shahada, right? And it reminds me of the companions, that nothing is happening without be and it is. And be and it is only executed by angelic, heavenly, celestial beings that I am interacting with all day. But if I'm not aware of it, then I'm stuck in the dense, coarse world. So I'm super excited to do the heart work this week. I hope you guys are also super excited, because this is the only way, not one of the ways, this is the only way to have yaqeen in akhirah, to have iman billah wa malaikatihi, to really confirm the reality of these angelic beings, and to confirm the presence of God through them. There's no way to confirm, be conscious of God right now without them, because they're the ones doing everything. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Let us renew our intention. I'm just going to end with the last part of my notes, what Dr. Yamina said. Try for 6 months to a year, pick one. Let's just start. And again, whoever is not in our weekly homework contemplation group, message me. We'll put out a reminder again, so we can actually have more engagement throughout the week to practice this stuff. If I do one practice, Nurbanu does one practice, Isra does one practice, Maha does one practice, and everybody's like, oh, I reflected on the coffee today. Oh, I reflected on the tea or the food or the berry or the banana or the this or the that. Then instead of just one person sharing one reflection, then we have more barakah, inshallah, more bounty, more blessings, more momentum to feed alam al-arwah, the world of this mystery, together, and to make that choice and renew that decision daily, that we want to truly focus all of our attention on being in awe of the reality, and to become more transparent and to see the world in a more transparent way. Bi-idhnillah. Thank you, Nurbanu, for your patience. And all of you guys for your patience with my reflections. I want to pause to see if Nurbanu, you want to add anything, and if anybody wants to share anything, please. Bismillah.
A few things I was reflecting on as I was listening to those of you who were speak. And one is how much many people are removed from the sacred book of nature. And that book certainly teaches us, you would say, about life and death, but I also like the word transformation. You know, in autumn, the tree doesn't hold on to the leaves, or the leaves don't hold on to the tree and say, hey, I'm not going. It's a natural process. And that leaf, we can think of it as dying, but it's also just changing form. We know that this formless energy, whatever we choose to call it, the Bahri Nuri or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is present in all things at all time. And so This leaf is just changing form, and in that change is going on to support the life of the soil, the other trees growing in the air. Listening to a bit of a nature program today, seeing how from the smallest insects that are part of this natural rhythm of life. When we're missing a one flower, it's we're missing the honeybees. We're missing the little worms in the soil. All of these things contribute to this natural web of life. And as we see that people have lost that awareness, we see a great imbalance in the earth. And I suspect that many of the earth changes that are taking place because the earth is doing what we try to do, finding its balance again. So I like that word transformation. And I also understanding certainly that the infinite presence of Allah is in all things. Nothing remains but the face of God. But also that each of us perhaps chose or were asked, will you go? Will you serve? Kun fayakun. And we are here at this time in history. And how important it is that we're in a process. I think that this process of transformation contributes to the transfiguration of the earth and the beings on this planet. And it may be by seeing that this being under their wrappings is an angelic being sent by God for whatever reason, seeing the sacredness in that person and moving with simple acts of kindness or compassion. That some people may go on to do great things that we read about, but I think we're all subversive angels of light. That's the way I like to look at us. And we're here, and it's through simple acts sometimes that can create great change in other beings. And that in turn, I like to talk about we don't know what the tipping point is, but what will change this planet is certainly a change in consciousness, a change of awareness. And recently I also read something about how important it is to have self-compassion and it's not just witnessing ourselves with a kind of coldness, but seeing ourselves and witnessing ourselves with a loving awareness. So when I do something goofy or I want to, wish I hadn't said or thought that can I pause? That pause is so important and witness myself with loving kindness. I think that the places of forgetfulness is, let's say I make it an I statement, is I have these places of wakefulness allow me to have compassion, not only for myself, but in turn for others. And there was a wonderful saying, and I'll just share this by the teacher Hazrat Inayat Khan. And he said the message, the message that you're all speaking about this evening, is for some a call to awaken, and for others it's a lullaby. I love the tenderness of that. Some people are just not ready. So it's a lullaby, it's there. So thank you for letting me share that. And thank you for all these beautiful wisdom teachings you're sharing tonight.
Thank you, Amina. I love the word lullaby. If only we can remember that everything is in tune. And just the word lullaby soothed me. Like everything is vibrating. A melodious, incredible dhikr, dhikr. And so when I make dhikr, then I join that melody. And I joined that company. Like Zubaida said in the chat, she was with the grass, lying, reflecting on the grass in the shade of the tree, and all of a sudden felt like she wanted to cry from just this awesome feeling that anything that was negative in her was taken away. So at once there was reception of beautiful feelings. And so to contemplate where that came from and what, I'm going to use his language, lofty heavenly bodies we were interacting with there. And to join that dhikr, you know, before we go to pray Aisha now. It's one thing to just praise a ritual, and it's another thing to say, all of us, all together, I renew my commitment to glorify you with praise, all of us, all together, me and all of the heavenly celestial beings that I became aware of between this and this prayer, to whatever extent I reflected, to with that momentum and awareness, I take that to my next prayer. It's either just a lip service or it's my heart feels full from, for example, what Amina shared or what Zubaida shared. Thank you, Amina. Anybody else would like to share? We would like to encourage everybody to share because it enriches our reception.
If not, you can always share reflections during the week in our group, WhatsApp group. It's 10 p.m. here, so I think it's a good place to stop. So next week we'll start with the third matter, inshallah. Thank you everyone for coming. As a reminder, we're gonna stick to the 8:30 p.m. Tuesday time for now. Unless prayer times change again and we need to accommodate, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة على رسولنا صلوات.
Masalam.